last few years. I should point out that we are a bunch of scientists, educators, and also engineers. And we actually work on campus at Footscray Park campus. And what we've actually found over the last few years is that we have actually undertaken a number of outreach students. Now, by doing those outreach programs and by undertaking those, we found that our students were gaining quite a bit of knowledge. So we felt it might be an idea to extend that and actually create larger outreach programs or installation-based work which actually can communicate science in an artistic fashion and obviously then convey the art via a science-based medium as well. So we started our enterprise in about 2012 and we haven't really looked back. The way we approach our work is a couple of ways. We definitely need the idea or imagination. The way we approach our work is very similar to the way we used to conjure up ideas about the magic that was found in the world behind the wardrobe in our rooms. So we've tried to create a series of installations which not only talks about science and engineering but also gives you that wonder of discovery, which we try and imbue all of our work with. And we do it for a couple of reasons. We find that when you put a person in a situation of trying to discover something, they actually gain a new creative insight. Our logo is essentially the eye, and we use the eye purely because the eye is used to observe and to discover. And that's why our logo basically inhabits the eye form. We don't only do installation work, we actually do a fair amount of outreach, as I've just explained, and we do a number of research projects, but we also do a fair amount of teaching where we try and provide our students with a knowledge base which they can then use to create their own installations. So we find by actually getting them involved in what we do, they actually inherently increase their knowledge base as well. And we found that to be quite successful, and we apply that towards the community as well. But we found that by actually combining the teaching and the research and also the outreach, we can actually expose the greater community to new ideas and new concepts, and we found that really encouraging. We're actually very encouraged in the last few years when the labelling of creative artists became more of a labelling now of simply those who want to create. So we became part of a larger sort of body of people that could provide outreach to the community. But Simon will give you a bit of information about where Skunk Works came from, the name itself, and then we'll move on to a couple of examples of what we've actually undertaken over the last few years.
So basically one of the first questions we always get is why did we call ourselves Skunk Control? And it's sort of based off an international company during the Cold War. Lockheed Martin was trying to develop a lot of military aircraft but had a lot of trouble with sort of red tape and paperwork holding up their progress. So what they did, they built up for our company known as Skunks Works. They used them to build all their top secret things and prepare everyone. So sort of borrowed that name because we work on the bottom level of the building. We sort of keep things pretty quiet up until we go to release something. So we sort of undercover, that and the fact we work with a lot of laser cutters and pretty smelly machinery, so it sort of works a bit twofold.
We've been quite lucky. The university supplied us with workshops, and we've actually received funding from within the university to put together a large establishment of particular instrumentation we can actually use to create a lot of these installation pieces. I mean, we've actually used a couple of different types of technology as well.
Yeah, basically when we started off, we were very basic. We were using things like small hobby motors, a whole lot of cardboard, which you'll probably see later on, and hot glue. And it wasn't long before we outgrew that. One of the problems we found was everything was very mechanical and very stiff movement. So we've sort of experimented and dabbled a little bit in soft robotics, using eco-flexors and pumps and things to get movement and to give more of an organic motion to some of our work. One of the biggest problems we had earlier on is when we're trying to do a quiet piece, if we had, say, 20 actuators or motors sort of in a quiet room, it was really loud. So what we did, we started playing with SMA, and basically what SMA is a shape memory alloy. Things like Flexinol, what they allowed us to do is when you heat Flexinol or the wire, okay, it basically contracts itself by about 5%. So it works as a bit of an actuator. So this meant with some sort of custom designed actuators and some levers and bits and pieces, we were able to make a number of things that became silent, like butterflies flapping, flowers opening and closing. Yeah, so it's sort of, we get to learn a lot of new technologies and use new materials through this work. We've come from using, like I said, things like hot glue guns and hammers and Stanley knives to put things together, to now we've sort of moved forward a little bit. We use a lot of laser cutting, CNC mills and 3D printers to do our work.
I can do it.
What we've sort of found is with all our new stuff, what we try and do is incorporate some new technology or a new material into our new pieces of work, and that way we continue our knowledge base growing into sort of as many areas as we can.
Just a quick sort of showdown of some of the projects we've worked on for the last few years and a bit of a video at the end. In the beginning, we actually started with absolutely nothing at all. We actually, like Simon explained, we used a lot of cardboard, and our first installation was a series of installations called Myths and Legends. We opened that up in something called Footscray at the Edge. That got a bit of attention, and we actually used very simple based sort of science principles to get across information. Very simple actuators, using a fair amount of cardboard. That slowly grew where we actually created what we call the Oracle, which is part of the Big West Festival, and that became a bit more sort of experimental. For example, one room we built out of completely made of a toast. The toast itself actually produced noises, so we actually created speakers from individual pieces of toast. It started the ball rolling with us, and we moved on to what we call the Pestilent Protrusion series, which was basically using light or polarized light to actually get quite a good effect. There's a couple of videos of this I'll show at the end, but essentially we managed to actually play around with light. The collection further moved on and we got involved in commissions and also in competitions. The most recent ones we built were for the lawn Biennale installation, and we've also travelled overseas. We've gone to Portugal, we've gone to New Zealand, and this year we're heading off again to Belgium and also to the Czech Republic. We moved on and we actually did some installation work for Federation Square, luminous interventions, which you'll see examples up on stage here. And from there we moved on and actually created other animatronic-based things, especially for the Gertrude Street Festival, including this particular installation called Secluded Evolution, which basically used muscle wire to move butterfly wings and create vivid colours using grading film. We were given a nice commission by Melbourne City Council to actually deck out the underground station at Flinders Street Station just recently, and that was called Prevaricated Frequencies. So we were the initial hosts of the Dirty Dozen, which now is up to its third collection. Just recently, part of the Laneway Festival, we put together the Oscillator, which was basically a 1970s piece of synthesizer walk-in where you can actually create music yourself. And we've done some work which is slightly off-kilter for various shopping centres, including one which incorporates a large amount of seeds and also food items which have to be preserved for a number of weeks. To give you a bit of a breakdown, we've just got a video clip here that goes through some of the videos and we'll conclude on that over there. one, this shows you a bit about workspace. This is the actual butterflies that we used in some of our installation work. Again, here you're showing a bit of animatronics being created and also here a kaleidoscope being built. I'm just going to go through some of the pieces. This video takes about, say, 3 minutes, and I'll walk you through them all, and then you'll see a bit of the outreach programs we put in place at the end of this particular video. This was the initial pestilent protrusions that we produced for the Gertrude Street Festival. This actually used a fair amount of different types of plastics, which we actually heat treated and actually applied pressure to. And we simply created a landscape which actually constantly changed in colour using polarising films. This one actually got us a lot of attention, and actually we built a large program around this about science. We've extended over the last few years, and what you see now is what was actually part of the Dirty Dozen downstairs at Horn Street Station. And this is the most recent one that we actually put together for the Law and Biennale. This one we just completed about 2 months ago. And again, the same principle of using polarising light. We haven't just worked with polarising light. This is the example of the actual plants you see here, part of Fed Square. These are part of the Light in Winter Festival, and again, we used a bit of dichroic light, and we actually created a bit of a program for our students around this as well. This was the animatronic installation we built for the Gertrude Street Festival. What you see there is basically a whole bunch of butterflies that actually open and close their wings using muscle wire. And that was part of the 2015 Gertrude Street Festival. You'll notice there that we put together a fair amount of cardboard using that as well. This is all sugar. What you'll find is that when you actually use different types of sugars, you can actually get rotation of light, and what you see here is the effect of actually putting these through a filter and seeing the end results. Now, this is one of the latest installations we put together, highly colourful and actually very engaging for the students, but we taught a fair amount of science, especially chemistry and optical rotation, through the use of this particular type of installation. On the other side of the installation, we had a forest dedicated, made of different types of seeds and fruits, and these were well preserved for about 2 or 3 weeks. Very popular, especially with kids that we found. Again, it was a bit of a sideline project for us, but nevertheless quite an entertaining one as well. 1 minute left for class. This was the oscillator we put up recently at Laneway Festival. Again, this is a walk-in synthesizer, a Moog synthesizer from the early 70s, which we put together, we recreated it. Very, very sort of unusual, but very exciting as well. This goes back to my initial stages of using very simple mechanisms to get a bit of science outreach. Here we're using plasma balls and simply putting next to a fluorescent tubes and they light up. We also created a bubble landscape within this particular type of installation, which allowed you to reflect on questions you've asked. And again, this has never been done before, these type of large installations. And this one was our toast room. Now, you'll notice at the back of each of these toasts, you'll find there is magnets and wires, and what we generated was essentially speakers. You'll see all these speakers being produced, and the idea was this oracle, so to speak, would talk to you, would actually get an answer based on what question you had asked when you first walked into the actual installation site. We've also engaged in using hydrogen and obviously getting OH&S oxide. We would actually create very large explosions by using bubbles and hydrogen gas. And these are all animatronic eyes which were part of the installation. These were about the idea of the rumour mill, people seeing how you tread through your life, etc. And these are all cardboard-based sort of installations that we put together, which were the initial of that there, so to speak. Pretty much that wraps up the actual the installations that we've done. This next 10 seconds, 15 second part just simply shows you the outreach programs we put on. Melbourne City Council invited us to a couple of outreach programs, and this is the core of what we do. We actually take students and actually educate them in the science that's part of all the installations we create, and that's the expansion of our knowledge from our point of view. So we generate a huge amount of outreach programs, get them out there to rural centres overseas if we have to. but essentially the idea is to get students to be involved in science and to learn art through science and science through art, and we find that to be quite an exceptional mixture. And I think it concludes that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you very much to Skunk Control. Obviously, you can see there a beautiful melding of science, technology, engineering, art, and it's some of the most amazing use of things like muscle wire that I've seen. Obviously, it's used for scientific and engineering purposes, but just something as simple to make a butterfly wing come alive, and then to be able to go on and show children how to use something that is relatively cutting edge technology to make something with a creative and STEM also teaching outcome. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. You can grab drinks at the bar at the back here. And then when we come back, we're going to have Steph and Jordan present their work, Duet, which is a motion-tracked and virtual reality installation piece, which I'll let you tell them about.